Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Justin Jackson. Welcome to another episode of the Real Chat Podcast. I have with me today Peter Banigo, and he's coming to us all the way from Nigeria. So, how you doing today, brother?
I'm good. I'm great. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. We were just chopping it up a little bit. About the little rascals running around. So, it's been a crazy
Yeah.
morning. So, but yeah, so I mean, let us hear a little bit about yourself, man. What are you, what are some of the things that you like to do? I mean, like physically, what do you do? I see you go to the gym and stuff like that. So what do you like to do?
I actually just started going to the gym less than 2 years ago, January 2023. So
Oh, okay, okay. Got to
I
start
think
somewhere.
yeah, before then I used to be this this kid when they have a race, the person that'll be at the end.
Uh huh. Yep.
That was me.
Oh, okay. He's like, yeah, no, I'm not going. Okay, okay.
So
Well,
that
because
was that was me.
oh, definitely, man. Well, 'cause see that, we shared a little bit about ourselves, and I see that you used to be an introvert and now,
Yeah.
man, it's just been a lot of growth after that. So tell us a little bit about that.
Okay, yeah, I think that's something I realized recently. I usually call it my journey of being finding comfort in discomfort. So growing up, I used to be everybody knew me as a quiet kid, the person who doesn't really talk that much. I think a lot of people didn't even know how my voice sounded. That's how bad it was.
Oh,
So
wow.
growing up, yeah, growing up, I remember back then when I said when I my first businesses or so. Back then, I'll be in the office with my staff, and maybe I want to tell someone something. I think one of my friends told me that what I would usually do, I would rather send something on Yahoo Messenger than talk.
Oh,
That's
wow.
how bad it
Okay.
was. That's
Oh,
how bad
so
it
you
was.
so
So
you
I
were one of
always thought of myself as an introvert here and everything. And then,
okay, so you were one of the
yeah,
ones that would just rather send messages back and forth. So you just send messages instead of having actual
exactly.
contact with someone. So okay, so how did you what changed? I mean, what can you say the number one mistake by
um,
doing that would be?
I think what changed? What changed was when I started going to the gym. I started going to gym for health purposes to get better, to get healthier because my health was really crappy back then.
Mhm.
So when I started going to the gym, I realized, wait, this person that used to back in school when we had physical classes, I used to come late to avoid physical classes, and then I'm this person that would always be excited for 4 or 5 p.m. to go and lift and jump on the treadmill. I'm like, oh, that's interesting. That's interesting. So I started
Okay.
looking for other things to change. Yeah, other things I thought were limits, other things I thought were things I couldn't do. The next thing was having conversations generally because I used to avoid having conversations. So I think previously I joined Toastmasters for my presentation and all that, but I still loved being in the background. I still didn't
Okay.
want to. I always started businesses where I didn't have to make sales calls because I hated them. I hated the idea of talking to strangers online and
Right.
in real life.
Okay.
Yeah.
You run
So
the
so when I
business from
started
behind
my
the scenes.
exactly that, I always had the business where I just do an advert, they click on the advert, they buy from the advert, and I just stay behind and I just see everything. I don't want to talk to anybody. But when I
Okay.
started my current business, yeah, Target ICT, I realized it was different. It's a B2B, like business to business. And I'm like, I realized I can't hide anymore. So over time, I had to talk to a couple of people. It was really uncomfortable. But then after I got to the gym, I'm like, okay, wait, let me do this. Let me talk to strangers. Let me
Right.
start conversations. I go out and just start talking with a random person, and I've realized I actually enjoy it.
Right. Yeah. You just jump on the
Like the gym,
treadmill and then
I
you're
enjoy
just
the
like,
gym
hey,
even
how
though I
you
thought I
doing?
hated physical. Yeah,
I like that.
exactly.
I
So it's
like that.
just it's crazy. It's crazy because I probably, if I hadn't tried it out, I probably got into 70, 80. I would have still thought I was maybe this I don't know if I would have gotten to 70, 80 anyway if I didn't even
Right,
but I
right.
would have felt maybe I don't like physical activity. I don't like talking to people. But I realized those are things I was afraid of. I think that's the word, afraid of. But I actually love them right now. Yeah.
Okay. Right, man. Well, I mean, I I kind of was the same way at one point, where I didn't want to talk to a lot of people, but I don't think, a lot of times it's really good to get out of your comfort zone. But at the same time, I think sometimes it's good to just sit back and listen,
Wow.
because when you're the quiet one, you hear and see everything, you know, and that's one thing, as I've been having a conversation with you, I can tell you're a very intelligent man. You have a lot to talk about and share, but I'm pretty sure there's a lot of times you sat back and was able to see and hear
Yes.
things that a lot of the other people weren't hearing and seeing, you know. So I think, man, but that's amazing that you jumped out of that comfort zone. So now what is the new thing that you're working on? What business are you working on now? What business is it that you have
Yeah,
now?
yeah, yeah. It was actually difficult at the start. Okay, currently I have Target ICT, Target ICT. So it's just I think to explain Target ICT, I'll have to go back.
Mhm.
All
Okay.
right. So back in 2010, I started my first business, a web hosting company. It worked out, and normally they say the first business doesn't work out. So when mine worked out, I had this confidence. I'm like, oh, I have magic fingers. So I started starting different things. And one advantage I had back then, I was talking to someone earlier just now, was that I was always this was it nerdy? Yeah, my mom got me a computer back in 2006. So I was always curious about what goes on, everything online and all that. So the first business in 2010, right? Yeah, 2010. I know I was using Google Ads as far back as
Okay.
2010, as far back as 2013, 14 for the business I started then. I was using Facebook ads. So I always had that advantage. A lot of people weren't using those things, but I was using them. So I was able to do more things than others who were doing the same business. And they'd be like, what's different? What are you doing? And I'm like, I just know it a little more. I just
Right.
know a little
Right.
more. Yes. So I think back in going forward to 2018, I realized a lot of people kept asking these questions. Oh, how are you doing this? How are you doing that? How are you doing this? How can I do this in my business and all that? And I realized, okay, this is something I enjoy. Technology is something I enjoy, something I do without getting paid. And
Okay.
maybe I should just make a business out of it. So that's the birth of Target ICT in February 2018.
Okay. So it was a hobby for you at first, something that you just
It
enjoyed doing.
was,
Okay.
yeah, I
And
think it's still that actually.
so it's not really work, right? So when you do it, it's not really work. I mean, you can get up and just
Yeah,
start doing it. So that's the beauty of it. That's the beauty of it, man.
it is. It
So,
is.
okay. So tell me a little bit about the podcast. So you now did your podcast come from what you do with this business?
Yes, I think I've always had a blog. I've always had a personal blog because back then I used to forget things a lot. So
Okay.
when I do things, I would always write them out on a blog so I can go back and say, "Oh, I did this. Oh, I have actually forgot about this." So when I started this business, okay, before Target ICT, I blogged for a couple of businesses so they can be found on the search engines. So I can get them clients through search engines. So when I started Target ICT, I realized that those questions these people always asked me, I was like, okay, rather than answering the same question over and over again, why don't I make blog posts answering these questions so I can always point them to those blog posts? And apart from that, people maybe searching online too who have those same questions can go on the
Mhm.
blog post. So that's I started blogging for the business, but over time, during the pandemic 2020, yeah, we're all at home looking for
Mhm.
what to do, and then I discovered podcasts, and I realized, wait, I'll wake up in the morning, put the podcast in my headphones, and for the next like 3, 4, 5, 6 hours, I listen to a podcast from beginning to the end, like 90 minutes. I'm like, I don't do this with blog posts. I don't read blog
Oh, wow.
posts. Yeah, that well. So I'm like, okay, I think maybe for my content to be better consumed, maybe I should do it as a podcast. So I think that's where the birth of the podcast came up. And it was part of being trying to be uncomfortable too, because before I started the podcast, before 2022, I don't think I had any video. No, I didn't have any video of myself online. I
Okay.
hated being on video that much. So it was
Right. You
something I
just did
wanted
audio.
to confront. Yeah. It was something I wanted to confront with the podcast. So I forced myself inside the podcast and I'm like, okay, you have a video to record.
That I think my first podcast, like the first one or two, was just audio. I did the same thing. I was like, I don't know if I'm
That
ready to
was
go.
it.
I'm not ready to go video with this yet. I don't know how this is gonna end. So and at least that way they just hear the voice, they don't see who it actually is.
Exactly.
It's
So
like
they don't have a face to who is making all those bloopers and everything. But
right, right.
here we are.
But one thing I learned along the journey, of podcasting is it can be fun. So, if you have like the good bloopers that you can bring out later on and create small shorts
Yeah.
of just the bloopers, because I had, I think I started with my co-host, when I had him doing them with me, and we
Yeah.
would always get to the point where it's time to announce ourselves, and then I would just start laughing. Like I would just laugh hysterically because I couldn't see myself, actually being a podcaster. And I'm like, hey, welcome to the next episode. And I just start cracking up, I just fall out laughing. So I think that was one of my biggest mistakes. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, so tell me, so Tech Your Business is directly associated with how you help people um get the information they need through others
Yeah.
and through
Yeah.
communication. Okay. So so how does that work? Like tell me like an example of how that would work, you know?
Okay, so how it's work basically? Let's say we have I think one of the recent episodes was open source alternatives. So there are a lot of people who I had a guest on the podcast. He had a company and he's like he pays over I think six figures in subscriptions for the software he uses. And I'm like, oh wow, that's a problem.
Oh,
I should do an episode on that. And I made the episode open source alternatives to common business software. So a lot of businesses use different things. For instance, for booking these appointments, we use Calendly. So there I
mhm,
talked about cal.com, which is an alternative. It's totally free of charge if you install it on your own server. We talked about most businesses use QuickBooks for accounting. I talked about some
mhm.
alternatives about Udo and account, aka accounting. So
Okay.
things like that. So yeah, so episodes like that where maybe a business who is tired of paying those subscriptions, or like in the my business is based in the UK, so it's covered by this GDPR, General Data Protection something in the
Okay.
EU. Yes, so they really pay attention to where your data is stored. So the advantage with this open source thing I talked about in the episode is that when you install those things on your own server, you have your data, you have everything in your country, in your state, you know where your data is compared to using maybe something like a MailChimp, let's say for email, where you don't know where they
Right.
are processing your emails here or something like that. So yeah, so that's one of the examples of how
Okay.
the podcast helps. Yeah.
Oh man. So that yeah, that basically, I mean, if you get a chance to check out Peter's podcast, there's probably a treasure trove of information you'll be able to get from that,
Lots.
and get a lot of
Lots.
information that you didn't even know you needed. I mean, that's awesome, man. That's awesome. So let me let me ask you. So I see your shirt, man. I love. So I think we're breaking out a couple times here. But that's okay. That's what happens here in the U.S. when you use StreamYard. So, but I have to do an episode on that, one time.
Yeah.
But so, but yeah. So yesterday we celebrated the 4th of July, and I think before we got to record, and I was asking you, so what do you guys do on these holidays over there in Nigeria? Like, what does that look
Oh,
like for
okay.
you over there?
Not really. I think here, what do we celebrate? We don't have the 4th of July. I think Nigeria's independence was the 1st of October. So
Okay.
you just have a work free day. They have processions, rallies, and co in the stadium.
Okay.
Everybody has their green and white, yeah, and everything. That's the flag color, green and white. So
Okay.
that's for Independence Day. I think that the only other things to celebrate really are Christmas, New Year. New Year, we had the fireworks
Okay.
from 12 a.m. down throughout the day. Christmas, everybody just stays at home. What else? What else? What else? What else? What else? Yeah, then a couple of Islamic holidays.
Okay.
The different Eids and all that. Yeah,
Right.
because the country
Okay.
has like both an Islamic and a Christian population, so we have yeah
Okay. So
both of the
a
holidays. Yeah,
mixture of it. Okay.
exactly.
So in other words, yesterday was just July 4th for you. So
Just
just
another July
just another
4th.
day. Just another day. I know. Like we had the fireworks going yesterday, and everybody was running
Wow.
around and wearing their red, white, and blue. And me, I kind of fell asleep later in the afternoon. I was wore out by the kids early on. So and
Yeah.
I went up and drove and picked them up, and then I fell asleep for a little bit, and then I got woke up to let's go see the fireworks. And I'm like, oh, here we go. So. But yeah, you get all prepared all day long. You see everybody grilling out and they're cooking out and they're
Yeah.
getting they're spending all this money, and then you watch the fireworks that take maybe 10 minutes. 10 minutes and it's all over. So then,
Your
then
money up in
everybody,
flames. That's why I call it.
that's right, that's right. You see all your money just burning away. So, but yeah, um, so what are some of your goals, as far as further growth, with the development of your podcast, of your business, where do you see yourself moving forward and even further out of your comfort zone?
Okay, I think out of my comfort zone, I don't know how to swim. So
Okay.
I think that's one thing. Yeah, that's something I want to learn. I actually started, but I didn't go far. But I want to start it again this half of the year. I'm going to
Got to start
actually be able to
somewhere.
go. Yeah, going to learn that this year. Then I think for the podcast for business, basically, I think before I started Target ICT, I had this what do they call it? I've forgotten the name they call it, but I always had this. I was always very easily distracted, so I'll start a business and I'm into the business and I see something new that looks so interesting and I'm starting that new thing. And I think that's one thing I've been able to grow into with Target ICT. At least for
Okay.
the past few years, I've not started anything else, and I don't see myself starting any new business going forward because that's one thing I learned in the whole process of everything I've been doing. That focus is really a very powerful thing. It's a very powerful thing. So I think going forward, the plan is just to focus on Target ICT, create more products that would fix, solve, suits different pain points of the different clients we serve, grow the podcast. I think my current goal for the podcast is getting up to 100 episodes. So once I get to
Okay.
100 episodes, we start doing advertising, marketing. But now I just because that's another thing. I learned that consistency is really important. So back then I used to start things, but finishing them was the problem.
Right. Right.
Yeah, so this
Procrastination.
podcast is yeah, exactly. So this podcast is one thing I've given myself a goal. I should get to 100 episodes. I know once I get there, I'll give myself maybe 200, 300, but
Oh
just
yeah.
getting
Just keep
better
them
with each
moving.
of them. Yeah.
Okay. Nice.
I think
Nice.
that's basically it.
Well, and I hear you there because I typically, I schedule so many interviews and things like that, and then I wake up and I'm like, oh, why did I do that? I'm like, but I think the more you do it, the more consistent you become with it. Because I
Yeah.
know when I first started
Yeah.
podcasting, I had an episode that came out kind of whenever, you know, and then I looked at it because people started messaging me and they're like, "Hey, when's the next episode coming out?" And you should really have one come out at the same time every week. And I'm like, yeah, maybe I should. So then it
Yeah.
started to be like every Monday. And one thing I learned over time is it's also outside of consistency, it's how much you put out. That people really want to hear what you have to say. They want to hear
Mm.
what the people that your guests, they want to hear what they have to say. So I guess more is better. At one point,
Yeah.
yeah, maybe you can answer this for me because you did Facebook ads and stuff like that. So uh, how do you not oversaturate? Like how do you not overdo it with content
Hmm. Yeah,
because of how
I think
algorithms work and stuff like that?
yeah, I think one way not to overdo it is having a bias towards quality. Because when you look at most social media platforms, the way their algorithms work, especially Facebook, Instagram,
Hmm.
the way they work is when you make a post, if people interact with that post, maybe like the post, comment on the post, make long comments. Long comments are actually very important, especially on Facebook. Make long comments on the post, share
Okay.
the posts. Those posts are going to be shared more. They are going to be spread more by the algorithm. So, and most posts that have that are quality posts. But a lot of times you see that when you want to go towards quantity, you keep bringing out posts. You notice that the first time, maybe the first two, three posts, you get a lot of engagement and cool. But if you just keep bringing them out without thoughts of the quality, the thoughts of who they help, or the thoughts of who they serve, you notice that over time you just get zero engagement on your posts and all that. It happens to me a lot of the times.
Right. Okay.
So yeah, there's this thing between balancing between do I want to be consistent, or do I want to bring out quality posts? But I think end of the day, I feel in the long run, quantity actually quantity improves your quality.
Your
Yeah,
growth.
because
Okay. Okay. Yep.
exactly.
Right, the growth of it. Yeah, because I mean, well, you see so many people that post, and like you said, there's no quality behind it. You
Yeah,
see all these posts, and you're just like, okay, maybe it's funny, maybe it's interesting to watch in the moment, but did you really learn anything from it? Do I really
no.
benefit from this? And it just continues to pop across my page, and it's like, okay, here's this video again. So and the reason why I asked that is because, we're both podcasters. We're both kind of in the beginning stages,
Yeah.
because I haven't been doing this that long, and I definitely am looking to learn something. And since you have the Tech Your Business, podcast, I definitely want to learn, brother, So
Yeah.
so what are your future plans as far as any possible trips to the US? I mean, or you told me before that you traveled between, what was it, Istanbul
Uh,
and
y- yeah, Istanbul, UK, US. Okay, so actually, I used to live in the UK up to the pandemic, up to COVID, but I think the lockdowns and everything just they were a bit frustrating because I felt
okay.
like I was in jail.
Right, right. I told you that's how my mom got stuck in Texas. So she went down there on vacation, and she just didn't come home yet.
And that was
So that
it.
was it. COVID hit, and she's still there. So
No, it was actually really horrible. So I think yeah, so I was there up to the pandemic. Then I had a separation around then too, so I just decided to get back home. Then I was traveling back and forth. Then my mom had to do an eye operation in September.
okay.
That's almost this is July. Yeah, that's about 10 months ago. So she had to do a cataract operation on both eyes. So I'm actually just getting back from the checkup today with her.
Okay.
So yeah, she has to go back for like every 2 weeks for now
Well,
and all
we
that.
got a
So
lot more in common than you think, man. My mom just had her eye surgeries like in the last
oh
year.
really?
Yeah, so she calls me and she's got an eye
Really?
patch on, and
Ah.
so right away, I had to make a pirate reference. She called and I was just like, "Arr," and
The
so
grammar pirates.
that's right, that's right. The kids are like, "Oh, grandma looks like a pirate," So, but definitely, we gotta
Yeah.
we gotta do what we gotta do, for our
Yeah,
parents, because they are the ones that got us to where we are. I mean, we put
exactly.
a lot of the hard work in, but dealing with my kids, I understand how much hard work they actually put in with me.
They had
Yeah.
honestly.
Oh yeah. I was like, oh my goodness. The stories I hear, I was worse than them. Like this can't be. There is no way I was worse than them. So always be
like
patient.
how are you going to handle yourself?
That's right. That's it. And then I call them, because me and my lady, we talk about this a lot. Like the biggest mistake,
Yeah.
that I made was, trying to, raise my kids differently, but at the same
Mm.
time, I have to sit back and think about what I was doing at that age. Like, so I got a
Yeah.
21-year-old and I got a 14-year-old as well. And when I get so mad at them, I'm like, my blood pressure is sky high. I get so mad. And all of a sudden someone just kind of taps me on the shoulder and they're like, well, just think about what you were doing at that age. And I'm like, oh geez, no, I don't want to think about that. Like I okay, hey, dude. All right, look, man, maybe I overreacted, maybe I said too much. I apologize. Now I find myself apologizing for a mistake that they made, so I'm sorry. Maybe I didn't handle that right. It's like, no, you
Yeah.
stuck out. You're the one that did this, so but yeah, it's always good to sit back and um I guess be an introvert to parenting and just sit back and
Yeah.
learn, sit back and observe and try to find the best way to handle the situation. I guess
I
pick your
think, I think,
battle.
I think, yeah, parenting, I think, is one of the hardest things when I think about it. Because human beings are so different, human beings are so unique, human beings, like, I think I was talking to someone earlier. They say the way you, if you learned a lot parenting your first child, by the time the second child comes in, you probably have to throw everything out because it's going to be a totally different person.
Yep. Yep, a whole totally different personality, I think yeah, my lady always says, "Well, you have basis for comparison because you have multiple kids." She has 1. And she's like, "So I'm
Yeah.
learning as I go." And I'm like, "That's not right." I'm like, because everything you learn from them, like you said, I got my first one and I'm like, "Okay, I'm not gonna raise my second one that way." So then I try
Yeah.
something different and then that doesn't work. And then you're like, "Oh, for the third one, I'm definitely not gonna make the same mistake I made with these 2." And then that one comes and you're like, "Man, what am I doing wrong?" Like, I just
Oh, what's
don't get it.
happening?
I just don't get it. I can't do this, so but yeah, you get a lot of moments like that. And
Yeah.
but no. So let me ask you before we get off, do you have any children?
Oh, no, 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 I don't.
No, no, no.
Yeah,
Not
no.
not
you know,
yet.
my mom used to say I was a terrorist growing up.
So you're thinking about it like, "Yo, maybe I
I'm
don't wanna
scared
go
of
through
it.
that."
I'm actually scared because I actually remember a lot of things I used to do. I remember when if they leave me in the house with my younger brother, I'm going to open the TV. Like get us the
Mhm.
driver, open the TV up, open the radio up. They had this, this long speakers they had back
Yep.
then. I'm going to
Mhm.
open that up to look for the people that were inside. Or I remember when
You're looking, so there's gotta be somebody in there. It's talking, there's somebody in there.
I remember
That is
when we had
amazing.
when they had Olympics. I can't remember what year the Olympics were. And my brother, we had glass tables and stools and
Mhm.
all that. My parents left us, and then we arranged all of them. They said in huddle. So, but I remember I fell in the middle of the glass table,
Oh.
and
Oh.
I did a lot of things.
Oh, yeah, so, I mean,
Like,
these kids, the Olympics gotten bigger over the years, right? So
oh.
so when you do have kids, it's gonna be a pretty big Olympic,
They're going to do
so
Olympics in my house.
that's right.
like
So
like most times my sisters bring their kids over and I think my blood pressure is high throughout till they leave. I'm like, oh, like you're looking at this one, next to this one is with a marker writing on my wall. The next thing this
oh,
one brings out a saw from my I said, no, 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 I can't just
no,
come take your kids away.
come get them. That's right, but that's the best part about being a grandparent or an aunt or an uncle, the kids come, you could spoil them, but then they go home,
They're
you
just
know?
temporary. Yeah.
Wait,
Once
that's
once
right.
they're done, okay, go home.
That's right. When you're a parent, it's you got them all the
You're
time, so
stuck.
that's right. Well, hey, Peter, this is starting to wrap up, and I want to tell you, man, I definitely had a wonderful conversation with you. And what can you tell our audience, like a quote, something that can motivate the audience? And what would you say your biggest takeaway from your prior growth would be to where you are today?
Okay. I think what I'll tell the audience is there are a lot of things in this life that you see and you want to do. A lot of things look big. A lot of things look like they're impossible. I think it's a lot like climbing a mountain. So there's this quote I heard, and I always say it all the time. It's go as far as you can, and when you get there, you'll be able to see and go further. So it's like climbing a mountain from the ground you can't see the sky, but if you
Right.
go to the middle of the mountain, you'll be able to see the sky. But you won't have been able to see the sky if you didn't start climbing the mountain. So that's what it means. Just go as far as you can see. Take the first step. I think it connects
I
with
like that.
another story. Yeah, there's one other story. I can't remember who had the story, but a man and his son were walking in a fog, in a mist. And the son is complaining, "Oh, I can't see anything. I can't move anywhere." And the man just says, "Take a step." He takes a step. He's able to see that step. He takes another one, and like that, they're able to get to the destination. So that's just take the first step,
That's how you
and it will
find your
give
way
you
out.
what you need.
I
Yeah,
like that. I
to
like
get where you
that.
want to.
All right. Well, Peter, where can we find you on Instagram, social? What's some of your information that the viewers can find you?
Okay, so I'm on Instagram. Though I've not updated it in like 2 years or thereabouts. But it's Peter Banigo. Then I'm on LinkedIn Peter Banigo too. I think I'm the only Peter Banigo on LinkedIn. So I think LinkedIn is just what I update for now. What I
Okay.
update almost every week for now. So link Peter Banigo, or maybe you can go on techyourbusinesspodcast.com, listen to the podcasts. This that comes out every week.
Okay. All right. Perfect.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate you joining me today, all the way from Nigeria, brother, and I appreciate having great conversation, which was real chat, man. I really enjoy laughing and just having a good time talking to you, brother. And we'll definitely reconnect again and get you back on the show. And hopefully I'll be able to
Definitely.
link up with you and give some information for Tech Your Business. So, all right, brother, you be
Definitely. Thanks
well.
for having me on.
All right, you have a good one, brother. We'll talk soon.
All right.